guys very much. Thank you. Thunderous applause. It continues, thunderous applause. All right, that's good. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Chase Jarvis Live. I'm Chase Jarvis, your host. About every week or two, we film one of these things, and I sit down with someone who has inspired me deeply, someone that is inspired by the world, and we sit here on this stage, and I do my best to unpack actionable and valuable insights with the goal of helping you all be inspired and live your most creative life. My guest today is truly a rock star, but before we get to him, for you folks who are out there in the internet world all over, we have thousands of people tuning in. Feel free, if you want to ask a question of James, I will ask a couple questions from the internet. So hashtag CJ Live on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you'd like, on any of our posts, and maybe a couple of those questions will surface their way here. You guys here in the in-studio audience also feel free to ask a question. We are live, so like get your shit together before you go on camera. But without further ado, our guest is an absolute rock star in so many ways, not just musically, but as a human. He's insanely creative. He's got some new entrepreneurial things that we're going to talk about, a new app called Pasted, and then we're going to have an amazing acoustic set that you will all remember, and you'll say, remember that one show? You get to tell your kids and your friends about it. That's going to be tonight. So without further ado, please, a massive Creative Live Seattle welcome for Mr. James Mercer. Come on, bud. Come on. See you again, bud. How you doing? Sit on here. Nice and slow, otherwise it'll make a noise. There you go. Yeah. Whoopee cushion. There he is. Welcome. Thanks a lot for joining us, bud.
Thank you.
Can you get comfortable?
Yeah, this is good.
Okay,
yeah.
Just got you some brown water in case you want
that's
some brown water.
grown-up juice.
So, one of the things that is insanely inspiring about you and your career is, A, the start. One of the things that so many people think who are watching from afar is that the start just happens and you're shot out of a cannon. But from what I know of your past and so many other people who've made a living in life doing what they love, it was, you've heard 10,000 hours or just, years and years of toiling. I would love it if you'd start off our conversation today with a little bit of backstory of what it was like in the beginning where there wasn't people lining up for you. And,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, and when you were living in your basement or whatever.
Well, I was living in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and my dad is an Air Force guy, and he had been stationed overseas in the UK for 3 years, and so I graduated high school over there in an American-style high school that was kind of an international school. And then we moved to Albuquerque. Wait
a minute, like there to Albuquerque?
From there to Albuquerque. Albuquerque has a massive nuclear weapons facility, and that was my dad's forte. That's what he did, was munitions, and of course, as you work your way up in that career, you are in charge of nuclear bombs. So that's why we were in Albuquerque. And he really pushed me to do some sort of a technical field. I mean, science and engineering stuff, which wasn't really, I didn't really have the brain for it, or the desire, I think. And I ended up dropping out and playing in bands and just was really fascinated by music and art and so on. And
how'd that go over with a military father?
I mean, not well, as you can imagine. I remember my mom saying one night, they were arguing about it. They were frustrated with me, and her just saying, I don't know why he does what he does. It was totally confusing to them, I think, It made no sense. Until, and so my 20s was spent, in bands, messing around and and having a lot of fun, honestly. But,
was there any success at that point, or was it just in bands having fun?
We couldn't draw 200 people to a show in Albuquerque, in our hometown.
Yeah.
So no, not really. I was learning a lot, though.
Yeah.
I was learning a lot about songwriting. I was learning a lot about what I was capable of. I was faking it a lot.
Yep.
And trying to be something that I really wasn't, that didn't really make sense for my personality. And just kind of working it out. And by the end of the 90s, technology had advanced to the point where you could record at home. And a buddy of mine gave me a bootleg. Well, he gave me a bootleg version of Cool Edit Pro, which is a really cool program, actually, and that's what I recorded the first Shins record on.
The whole record?
Yeah, on a Hewlett-Packard Pavilion, like one of those short stack things that, like an office sort of computer.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, still basically unknown, working.
Sure.
Were you working to pay the bills, or how did that work?
Yeah, I was working odd jobs.
You can say it.
Yeah.
That's why you're all here, right?
I was working all kinds of odd jobs. I mean, temp agencies are great.
What were the oddest?
A buddy of mine gave me some starts of marijuana, and I started growing that in the closet and selling that to friends and stuff like that. I mean, just whatever I could do.
You were just ahead of your times, very entrepreneurial here in Washington.
I really don't recommend that in Albuquerque, New Mexico in 1999.
With a military father.
With him, yeah. But you know, I knew that I needed to be able to go on tour, and I needed time for myself to do what I was really into, because I knew none of these jobs that I was doing were, you know, going to come to any nice end.
Yeah.
It was just paying the rent, you know. So I just kept working at it, and recording was a huge thing. I mean, getting that device and being able to layer tracks and so on, that was like, I mean, it blew my mind, and I became kind of obsessed about it.
Yeah, having talked to so many people in the seat that you're in right now, this is a really common theme that I'm hoping that you all can help us culturally move forward, which is that there is something that you're supposed to be or become. If you're successful, you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. Obviously, the times are so much different now, and what are we doing to stamp out so many of the things that could be an amazing artist or a musician, but we've got this cultural sensibility that we need to reframe. So that story, I've heard it over and over again. So A, you're not alone, and B, let's make sure that the rest of the world doesn't feel like that, where we have some responsibility to impact them.
And you're really filling this niche. I mean, where you know, certain skill sets that are very valuable now are just not available at the traditional college or whatever. So
Creative Live is to disrupt that.
Yeah.
Sure. So you said something sort of declarative right there, which was like, and actually recording was really important. Why was it? Did it give you a sense of like permanency, or you were capturing something and you were able to share it? What was the?
Well, I mean, it's how you make a product in the music world. You know, it's how you get the attention of some of the people who are here tonight, who really changed my life. Megan Jasper's here from Sub Pop, everybody.
Yay.
But you know, and it's so I loved records. You know, I wanted to be part of that world. So, and then also in Albuquerque, it's kind of few and far between the people who know how to do that. You need somebody who knows how to record, is a good engineer, and has good taste. Yeah. So that's a combination that's just, you can find it in a big city like this, but in Albuquerque, there were just only a very few, and it was expensive.
So is that why you're doing it yourself at that point?
And so I started doing it myself. And it started with a 4-track, like you said, and then it was this Hewlett-Packard Pavilion computer that, like...
Word processing by day.
Oh, man, yeah.
Shins recording device by night.
Yep,
so
exactly.
How did you get from there to Portland and Seattle and the Northwest? Like, did you just like literally decide to pick up and move? Was it because everything was happening here? Like, and what time frame? Give us a little...
Well, I mean, it sort of starts with little tour jaunts that I made. That reminds me, I should probably turn
make sure your phone's off. You don't want to be that person, right?
You know, little jaunts that we would do in an old band I was in called Flake. We met people. So again, it's just working, it's doing, it's getting out there and meeting people and making connections that you don't realize will come to some strange fruition, you know, down the road. So on this one trip, we opened up for a little band in a sandwich shop. It was a band that was on the newly formed Up Records called Modest Mouse. And we played right there, right? And
in the sandwich shop?
In a sandwich shop on, you know, a stage not near as big as this, you know? And people are coming in and buying their food and stuff. But, you know, so what happened was Isaac hit me up about opening up for them in Texas, because he had remembered we were from New Mexico, and he put it together and was like, you guys come out and open up for us. I really like that record you guys did. It was a 10-inch we had. And I hung out with Zeke Howard, who is partner with me on Pasted.
Yep.
He was drumming for Love is Laughter, who was opening up for Modest Mouse as well. It's these connections, you know? It's crazy.
Well, from sandwich shop to like top 10
Right.
Billboard albums. Obviously, there was a journey there. So get your ass now to
Okay,
Northwest.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's all right.
You're right. That
I'm
was
excited.
the point.
No, this is the detail that people want. They want to know the sandwich
Yeah.
shop because I think people at home, they don't know
Oh,
that
it's in
James
Chico,
Mercer,
California.
They
I
literally
what
don't
it's
know.
called.
This is part of the thing is that you think that this stuff happens overnight, and the reality is that you're living in a basement with a
Your
four-track.
parents are
Your parents are
frustrated.
pissed. And so there are people out there who are listening who are trying to go from 0 to 1. That means they don't even identify as creative or whatever, and they're trying to get there. And then there are people who've been grinding for a long time, and you almost just have to outlast the shit. You have to get through it. And so now I would like you to take us on a little journey here up to the Northwest because you played the sandwich shop. You met
So Zeke
Isaac.
and Isaac both go back to Seattle where they were living, and they speak to people at Sub Pop and say, you know, Sub Pop was really cool in that they were telling some of their bands and people that they knew, like, if you see anything cool out there, let us know, you know. And so we got kind of a direct connection or indirect connection to Sub Pop through that. And you know, it wasn't too much longer after that, and Megan and Jonathan, who were running Sub Pop, showed up at a show, and you know.
Where was that show? Was that at the?
That was in San Francisco that I first met you. But we started having correspondence with Sub Pop, and it was a big deal. I mean, it was. I don't think I really realized how big of a deal it would be for Albuquerque.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really cool, really crazy time for us, you know.
So you're living in Seattle now. You're talking to Sub Pop.
Yep.
And
no, I was still living in Albuquerque and lived there just for a couple years.
Okay.
And then
that was
GoPro down.
GoPro down.
And then I moved to Portland, Oregon,
Okay.
actually. Because a friend of mine had run out of gas in Portland and became a dishwasher. And literally that happened.
I have a friend who's got a lot of money. He's a dishwasher. I'm going to go move in with him.
Yeah,
Is that what you said?
I mean, that was called a soft landing for us in Albuquerque, you know? Yeah.
Okay, so you're in Portland. There's a scene. You got this amazing group of people at Sub Pop Records.
Exposed to all kinds of new things, totally different social life, and it was cool.
When did the first record happen?
That was 2001, June of 2001.
Okay. And
then we went on tour, and 9/11 happened while we were out there, and we just began this crazy career. You know, and it started out slow still, you know. It was just a record available. That's all, you know, although it was on Sub Pop, which, you know,
gave it some
mom and pop
credibility.
record stores, they respect and admire Sub Pop. But we were unknown.
Yep.
And so touring was an integral part of, you know, getting the word out. And
was it like a bunch of guys in a van,
in a
just
van,
like you see
sure.
in the movies?
And we're driving, and
Yep.
my buddy is doing his best to tour manage, working with, you know, people who don't want to pay us, no matter how well we did. You know.
Wow.
Yeah.
So catapult yourself from driving around in a van to releasing a full length. There was an EP.
Yeah, so we put out a single on Sub Pop and then a full length record on Sub Pop because I had built up quite a bit of material working with this computer.
It's all about the computer, right?
I mean,
the robots help. They're great.
Seriously, you know, I tried to do what I did on O Inverted World with a 4-track, and I'm not that skilled. I mean, it takes a lot of work. It was a great, you know, the advent of that thing really did change everything. So we had the first record came out. Sub Pop sent us to Europe. We went and played in Sweden and stuff, and it was just really cool. And then what happened is about that time, so it did spread. There was something about the record that had some hooks in it.
Yep.
And it wasn't too long, you know, after the record coming out, I mean, maybe 6 months to a year, that I remember receiving a treatment, and somebody wanted to put one of our songs in a movie. And we immediately were like, yeah, totally.
A treatment, he doesn't mean the spa, he got a movie treatment.
Yeah, a movie treatment. It was like the scene is written out, and here's how we'll use your song. And we were like, yes, totally. And that was the first of many of those sorts of things.
Do you remember what that was?
It ended up being Garden State, which didn't come out until 2004 or so, but it was 2001 or 2002 when we were approached.
A lot of people lost their virginity to that in this room. I hear that. Oh, yeah, that one. Thanks, everyone.
So that ended up being a really huge thing for us, and is partly why I'm here today. You know.
You think so?
Yeah, it was a big deal for us. It was just.
Well, that soundtrack was really widely played. There was
really popular movie and a popular soundtrack. Yeah.
So you and Zach Braff buddies because of that?
I can't say we're buddies, but I know him and I've done more work for him, and he's a real sweet guy, and yeah.
All right. So, really cool. So did that just go from like 0 to 100 miles an hour, and you went from sandwich
It went from
shops
the red van that we were touring in to actually being able to rent a bus.
See, these are musician terms, right? It went from the red van to the bus.
We went to van to bus. Yeah, it was pretty cool. With a bathroom in it. Yeah. No.
Upgrade. Wow. Did the Sub Pop know about that? Because that's probably an upcharge.
Yeah.
So let's go from there to stardom. Just skip everything, and you got the number 1 or 2 album on Billboard. So
and that would have been Wincing, the 3rd record.
Yeah. Contrast those 2 lives for us. So red van to the bus with the bathroom, and then playing large venues, sold-out shows, you know, Billboard top 10 albums.
I mean, my personal life really hasn't changed that much. There's not that much of a difference, you know.
What about the psychology? And is this something did you actively resist this, or is it just because you're James, or the people want to know?
I would say yes, my psychology has changed. Megan, who's here, who's known me during this whole.
Can we just, Megan, just
well,
Megan, just put your hand up. But can we?
I'm sorry, Megan. I'm sorry, but
you have to. You have to. You have to.
You know, I think that the people who knew me back then would say yes. I was just very shy, and you know, and just reticent and all that. So I mean, I've come out of my shell, I guess, during this process a little bit. But I mean, you know, I don't know. I'm not very visible. You know, I'm not really spotted on the street often or any of that stuff. Yeah. So my life really hasn't.
Is that active? Do you actively work against that?
I don't really think about it much. I mean.
Also, living in Portland probably helps, right?
Living in Portland helps. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I guess I haven't really sought out my image being available. Yeah. But it wasn't a decision. It was just sort of like, you know, I had cool friends who did great art, like Jesse Ledoux, who lives up here in Seattle, and so that would be the default thing for us as far as artwork or things like that. It wouldn't just be like, you know, us on the cover.
So. But you don't have to tour in the bus with the bathroom necessarily. You don't have to live in a small apartment in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Yeah, in Albuquerque. Right. Do you feel like your art changed because of the acknowledgement? I'm trying to help people relate to the fact that so many people have a great freshman album and then struggles as sophomore, because there's a lot of shit going on.
Right.
And did you feel none of that? Some of that? It feels like, based on how you're responding, that you were just like doing your thing. Is that true?
It wasn't very intense, and I remember being asked these questions back when we put out our 2nd record, because the first one was a success. You know, in some ways, I think that the creative process is always a bit of a struggle. You're sort of having a conversation with yourself. You're criticizing it as you're doing it. Yeah. And this dialogue's going on, and you're imagining people seeing it. I mean, that's even when I'm doing like visual stuff or writing, you know, I'm imagining this conversation, and I'm having the conversation at the same time with myself. So it is a bit of a struggle, I think, no matter what. You know, like when I was in Albuquerque alone in my room, I knew my friends were going to hear it. I knew the other bands in town were going to hear it, and I wanted to freaking show them. You know, so I had this like angst and intensity about it. Yeah.
Did you lose that when it was just on the radio, or because there was no them, there was no they?
Maybe then it slightly shifts and changes because you have, in addition to the people that you know that you're impressed by, that you want to impress, you also have unknown masses that you want to impress. But I don't know. It didn't have the impact that I think it does have on some artists sometimes.
Got it. All right, shift gears.
Okay.
So I want to find out a couple things about you well, maybe that's the question. What are some things about you that if you revealed right here, that people would be surprised to know?
I don't.
Because the whole
God, I feel like I'm
selling weed
easily
thing
read.
is probably a thing.
That's probably a surprise. I never have actually revealed that before.
Yeah. You're safe.
But
here
now
in
that it's
Washington, you're
legal
safe.
up here, you know, it's like,
Like
my
9
God,
tenths
though.
of
What would
9
have
out of-
happened to me if they'd have found that in the closet, you know? You know, you're in your 20s. You're kind of it's wild. Man, I mean, an ideal day for me is at home with my family, my wife and kids, in the garden.
The garden. Last time we were together in
garden.
San Francisco, you talked a lot about gardening. Is that a thing?
I mean, it's a big thing for my wife, and it's something that I sort of introduced to her, but she's just run with it, and it's just a big part of our life, therefore.
Do you have like chickens? And this is you're Portland, so you have chickens.
Yeah,
you have
our
goats,
neighbors have chickens. Our
goats and
neighbors
stuff. I've seen Portlandia.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that's our neighborhood. Is like, we haven't got chickens yet. We have no pets. Maybe that's a surprise. We have no pets.
No pets. Well, you also remarked in one of the most recent answers there about...
I was in MS-13 for a while. No. See, there's nothing surprising.
Nothing surprising.
There's nothing really surprising.
No, you're wildly surprising. The fact that you grew weed in your closet to pay for your food. You said something a second ago just about being creative, where I'm writing or drawing, or I don't know if you said painting, but you said, under your breath, said 4 or 5 things. And that's one of the things that is wildly apparent when you spend any time with you, that you think and work on lots of different dimensions. Is that inherent in you? Do you feel like that was uncorked by your music, and it was putting music out there that allowed you to pursue a bunch of other things, and you got used to putting yourself out there? So what is it, you know, talk to me about that for a second.
I mean, I've always been curious. There's that. You know,
Yeah.
I've always just been fascinated by the world. And so, and I guess I've always had a little bit of a almost delusional belief that I could do something cool, that I could contribute something. So maybe those two combined has got me messing around with lots of things.
Well, that's the thing when you ask a room full of, say you all were like 8-year-olds, who wants to come up here and draw me a picture? Every hand in the room goes up. And then you ask that same question when they're 12, 20% of the hands are up, and you ask that same question when they're 20, and there's like 4 people in the room that want to get up and draw. Yeah, it's frustrating. That's one of the reasons why this place exists. But would you put yourself in the camp of people who've just like blown through that and not paid attention to it, and you were always good with wearing that as a badge?
No, I was definitely one of the kids who would not put his hand up, even at 8 years old, probably.
Yeah.
I was shy. I was really terribly shy. So I really had to come out of my shell. And I mean, I can credit. So I was doing art,
Yeah.
but it was in my bedroom. It was, you know, I kept it private. But I had a friend named Neil Langford who was in Flake with me, and he kind of took my hand and pulled me on stage at one point, and that was the beginning of me sort of getting over that stuff. And I mean, I really don't know that I would have ever done anything if it weren't for that moment.
Yeah.
He really was like, you know, he heard me playing in my room or something. He was like, you should join our band.
You should go play at the sandwich shop.
Yeah, right, yes.
That's another thing that I'm hoping that people at home can take away, is that it started at the sandwich shop, not just for you, but for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, right, sure. I would guess that, I mean, unless you are spotted at the mall at 10 years old and Disney signs you to something, you know, it's gonna be the sandwich shop.
That never goes well, though.
Yeah, it doesn't go well.
Never goes well. It
Yeah.
never goes well. So you feel reasonably confident as an artist. You said, I think I can make a mark. I think, and that sounds like it came over time. One of the things when we were last in San Francisco together, you talked about a new creation. You've talked about yourself as a non-techie.
Yeah.
And yet here you are. You guys, if you don't know, James and some friends developed an app. Tell us, like, that seemed like you've got however many millions of records out there in the world. You just self-produced a new one. And the thing that's like you're talking about a lot is this app.
I'm really into it right now.
Is it weird? You're into it, right?
Because it's another, I think it's another creative sort of thing. Starting a partnership with some friends, Zeke, who I told you helped me to get signed to Sub Pop. I was in a restaurant in Hawaii called Buzz's, an old, I mean, it's been around probably since the 40s or 50s, on the beach in Kailua, neat old place. And there was a collage of just faces mainly, and just a big board filled with these faces, old pictures, and you could see that at the bottom, you know, they were getting newer. You know, it's like from the 60s all the way to the 80s or something. And I thought, with your phone, using facial recognition, you could possibly make an app like that. And so I started looking for it, because like it's going to be there, and I'm going to buy that, and my Instagram is going to be so cool, you know. But it wasn't there, and so Zeke and I spoke, and Zeke is a programmer now. He's no longer the drummer for Love is Laughter, but he is a drummer still. He's playing tonight, actually, in town. So he said, yes, we can do this. This could be done, and he already was in the midst. He had done work for Spotify. He runs a company with his partner, Ben, called Brigade. And they had done work for Spotify. Just cool stuff.
Super cool stuff.
And I didn't realize he had done all this cool stuff, and he had this whole second career. But anyway, so we worked together, and for many long months, we hashed it out, trying to design this user interface, which is really fun to try and figure out, what do people want to do? What do you like about the apps that you love? And then there's the whole aesthetic side to it. And so, yeah, we created a collage app called Pasted.
And I think you're going to show us.
Can I? Yeah. Let's
really
see
wants
if it
to show
pops
us,
up.
you guys.
I really want to show you guys, actually. But I am not sure that I am running over here.
We'll figure out what has to happen in order to put that up there. Do you think you know?
I think maybe.
What's that? AirPlay.
Okay. To the Apple TV?
AirPlay to what? Boot deck.
Booth A.
Booth A or boot deck. Booth A.
Can you guys call me Booth A from now on? Okay.
So when look at there it is.
Yeah. So this is Pasted. That's our cute animation that happens at the beginning. So get started, and basically what we'll see are photos in my camera roll.
Did you edit this first? Because this could be ugly.
I selected some photos that I thought would work.
All right,
this is going to be very rough, okay? But the thing that this does that other collage apps don't do is you can select a bunch of things and throw them up at once. And it just sort of, okay, there they are. It's not looking cool yet, but I can select this, and I can just start moving things around, and I can, if I work at it, I can approximate what I saw at Buzz's. It has facial recognition, so it avoids cutting out my mom and my daughter's face there. And it just is kind of cool, and you can see that basically you can assemble last night's party. Now I've changed a filter. You can go like this, and there's a bunch of different filters. You can go up, and you get the backgrounds changing. But I've done a T-shirt design with this.
Thank you for that gift, by the way.
Yeah, right?
You gave me this shirt. It's amazing.
So anyway, that's basically the gist of it, but you can imagine messing around with this for a while. And it's got a bunch of cool features. Like this is a masking tool where you can do weird stuff like this.
So why did you do this? Like, was it like...
Because I couldn't buy it, so I had to make it.
But that's the thing, like that's a takeaway, that if you're, again, at home or out there, if you're interested in making something, make something that scratches your own itch. Because that's what people care about. People know that, and if you have a thing that is bugging you, there's probably, you know, a million other people. That's just the way the world works. And in the process of making this, what kind of experience was it for you? Were you satisfied? Were you terrified? Like, is this fun and interesting for you to share this with a bunch of people who know you as a musician, and now you're a developer? Is that weird?
It's a different sort of thing, but there's a lot of similarities. I mean, when you're creating a product, it kind of goes back to that thing of when you're recording a record, you're really just taking what you're doing in your bedroom or on stage, and you're turning it into something that people can experience from afar.
Yeah.
and it really becomes about product design, and there's packaging and all those things. So it's similar in certain ways, you know, the aesthetic side of it. Do we have any of those examples of some of the collages that we really like?
I was just about to break them out.
Cool.
So I don't know if you want to talk through some of these. It's going to be hard to see if you're at the back of the room, but I'll hold these still so that camera that's hovering over your head right there can get it. These are some of the examples that the community, of things that the community have made. This is like very Fallon-esque, right? I'm sitting here like this.
Yeah.
But it, like, truly beautiful stuff. And one of the things, you want to hold on to that?
Yeah.
I'll show a few more here. One of the things that, oh, that's scary. One of the things, well, if you actually pay attention to the app, and it's on the front page of my phone right now, and the night that we hung out in San Francisco not too long ago, there's a thriving community that's using this to make stuff.
No.
A lot of these are sort of abstract.
That's Yuki, who's here, our bass player.
Where are you at, Yuki? There he is, back there. He's claiming it right now. I saw that.
This is cool. This is Annie Beattie did this, who's a really great artist and does all kinds of amazing work down in Portland. She's moved to LA, but that's a great one. There's a Dead Alive sticker pack. So the Shins Dead Alive song that we first released, we did a sticker pack based on the video that we created.
Got it. So there's stickers in there, sort of like Instagram stories.
I didn't show the stickers.
You didn't show the
stories? There's stickers.
Okay, there's stickers.
Yeah. There you go. This is a person named Blue Cacao. That's her handle on Instagram. He or she, actually.
He or she. Do you know? You don't know.
I don't know, but does really, really cool stuff with pasted.
So it looks like, in part, like my grandma's hallway, just covered with these collages of when we were all, you know, young. And
she did that.
Yeah, she all these little cutouts and whatnot. And I've also, you know, the Rolling Stone did a big piece about the app. And is it like rock poster collage thing?
That's one of the things that we've kind of discovered is a value in it. You know, back in those days in Albuquerque, I would spend hours at Kinko's making photocopies and blowing things up, and then using whiteout and making flyers and stuff. And Paste is actually a great way to do that sort of stuff on the fly with your phone, and you know, and not have to necessarily own a $2,000 laptop, you know, with Photoshop on it or whatever.
Got it. Well, throughout the course of our conversation so far, I've asked some folks here in the room to be forwarding the questions that are coming in from all over the world. And I've got 4 or 5, and I'd like to go to a couple of those, but y'all in here in the room, I'll let you guys have a couple questions in a second, but I do want to get to this one. Mary Jennings asks, have you ever really considered giving up being an artist? Or is it what you were meant to do? And if you have, was it the art making, or was it the struggle to successfully perform that was the challenge?
I think it is that was difficult.
That was 2 things, though.
The art making?
Yeah, the art making, or was it the performing after you've made the art?
Oh, right, I see. Like, yeah, in the world of music, you have to end up performing it, don't you?
Yeah.
I guess, I mean, really, I always enjoyed making music, and I don't think I would have ever really given that up. But yes, I did, you know, before I was able to make a living at it, of course, you know, it's like, I mean, am I really just kidding myself? Like, what is this that I'm doing, you know? And at one time I told my parents in Albuquerque that, you know, I had this new computer and I was going to really push hard, and don't expect much from me in the next year. You know, I know you guys are frustrated with me, but I'm going to push hard this year to make as good an album as I can and see if it merits anything and see if it becomes any kind of a success. And I promised them if that didn't work, I would go back to school and get a proper job and stuff like that. So yeah, there's that moment for me.
How'd it go for them? I mean, was that... they were like, yeah, right, and then they were tapping their fingers and...
You know, they acted supportive.
I like you said they acted.
You know, they were frustrated, and I can understand it. I mean, I'd probably
you want a lot for your kids.
And they're a different generation, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, they did their best to be patient with me, honestly.
How big of a part of your career today is fear versus 20 years ago when you started?
Man, it is. I have to be honest. I mean, it's a mixed bag still.
But this is like, this needs to be said, James. This is why I'm asking the question.
It's a good question. And I've never been asked it. I think that I was pretty fearless, you know, early on because there was nothing to lose. And I would say that there are times now when there is fear, you know, and anxiety about.
Is it because of who you become? Because you have expectations? Because you know, you're like trying to get a paycheck? Like, what's the fear about now?
Well, I recently, I had this doubt because I'm really out of touch in a lot of ways with like the modern music scene. You know, I know certain bands and they stick out to me, but I do see a lot of things that are popular that I don't really understand why they're popular. You know, and we all do probably.
That was so nicely said, wasn't it?
But it's a disconcerting sort of thing, you know.
But
then I realized,
that's so brilliant,
in a conversation with my wife, she kind of pointed out, you've never been in touch, man. You've never been in touch with it. It's always been like, you know, and that's kind of good, I guess.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, that's one of the reasons I asked the question, because you just do you. And that's, I think artists by and large, and just people, whether you're trying to transition career or whatever it is, you think that the answers are out there, but they're really in here. Like that, what makes you and
the things
why
and the things I love, and the things I really love. Like
Right.
You can see influences and so on, but
yeah,
I
but this is why
love
people
those
show
things
up
dearly. You
because
know?
you're not in touch with the new hot shit.
True.
So if you're sitting at home, say true. But that's the thing. If you're sitting at home, like what you got to do is you got to do you. So. Another question that's dovetailed off that other one is, we haven't even touched on the new record yet, which this is a great segue into it. Why don't you give us the short, so talk about it for just a second, then I'll ask this here question from Brian.
Okay, the new record is on Columbia Records. It's called Heartworms.
Heartworms?
Heartworms.
What's the title? Give us the backstory.
Well,
are these like stupid rock journalist questions? Because
no, it's good. I kind of like this story.
Okay, good.
I like to tell it. I don't know if any of you remember, there was a band in the 90s called Heartworms.
No, no one remembers that.
Well, they had one really cool record, but it was Archie Moore who had done Velocity Girl and other bands. I'm spacing right now, but really cool guy. And I was in the midst of writing the song titled Heartworms, and I wanted to describe this love affair as something that the person just really wishes they could just take a pill and just get it knocked out of them and just be past it. So they feel infected by something, but I didn't want to be too grotesque. So I remembered this Heartworms and that phrase. It always just struck me as something really cool, you know. So I contacted Archie Moore, and he gave me the go-ahead. First, he kind of messed with me. He was like,
shade.
dude, I cannot believe you would ever, you know. And he's like, just kidding. And so he let me use it, and I'm very thankful because I really love what he did. And so, yeah, anyway, so Heartworms, that to me just became like everything about the record, sort of, you know, it's like those moments where all of a sudden, oh, now everything makes sense. You know, the record's called Heartworms. It's, I'm hopefully infectious, and touches your heart. So it was just kind of a grotesque version of like the word earworm. You know?
But it's been a while, is it not? Since you released
the record came out. Oh yeah, it was 5 years for the Shins. It was 5 years. Of course, I'm in another band called Broken Bells, and we had done 2 years earlier.
So
I kind of leapfrog Broken Bells and
Right. Let's talk about Broken Bells for a second, because I think that's a really interesting project. Go there for me. Give us the backstory.
Okay, so Danger Mouse, a famous producer. Brian Burton is his real name. When he's not wearing the costume.
Do you call him Danger, or is that his middle name?
I call him Danger. No, I just Brian, of course. Yeah, Brian. But so I was in a bit of a. Oh man, I don't want to say a crisis mode.
It's safe. It's safe mode, right? Is it safe here?
I was struggling with the band, and I wanted to do something different. I knew that. I wanted to sort of change things up. This is after Wincing the Night Away, and Brian was also in a similar situation. He wanted to have a new band, like a proper band. He really likes to perform and write, and he's great at all of it. And so he wanted to do the same thing, and we got in touch through my management. I had met him a number of times at shows and stuff. He was a Shins fan, and I was a fan of his stuff. So he proposed the idea that we get together and just have a band. Like, we'll just write songs together. I know, it's crazy.
Let's do a band.
And he had a working studio, and like he's got Kenny Takahashi and Todd Monfalcone, who are great engineers. So I was just invited to go down there, and of course this is back, I'm still a little bit in my shell at this time. I was nervous about this. You know, I mean, I hadn't gone and performed with people outside of my band before, you know? So, I mean, it was a pain in the ass to get me on stage in the first place, and now I was gonna go work with proper musicians and a famous producer. You know, Brian had just finished basically touring and doing the second Gnarls Barkley record. They're a big band, it's a big act. That was one of the biggest songs of that era.
Yeah.
So I was really nervous, and it's funny looking back, and you know, you have those moments you're just scared to death to do something, and often you just do it and get through it, and you look back later and you're like, what was I so afraid of? It was one of the first, it was a big moment for me working with Brian.
But if you take that little nut, if you walk away with anything from this conversation, you should walk away with that. There's a moment where you're terrified, and then as soon as you start doing it, as soon as you're into it and maybe start to get out of it, you ask yourself, what was I so terrified about? Take that, I'm sure there's a lot of people retweeting that right now, but the journey from Chutes Too Narrow to the new album, how have you changed as an artist?
Yes, well, man. Oh, well, I'm more adventurous.
Yeah.
You know, I think the new record is the most adventurous thing we've done. And it's a lot of those steps. It's, you know, working with somebody like Brian, who has very different aesthetic scope and very different technique, and learning a lot. And it's, you know, just doing it enough and growing, and also feeding off of new music that's out there. So as out of touch as I say I am, I really love Ariel Pink.
I'm obsessive about new music.
I love Tame Impala and, you know, some of these really cool things.
Yeah.
You know, but they're not necessarily the absolute top of the charts or anything right now, you know. But
Well, David Butler wants to know, did you have a long-term plan, or are you just following your instincts?
no plan. Oh, man.
Oh, God, no, never plan, never.
Well, I would if I could, but I didn't have a plan. You know, I have realistic goals that I'll set for myself, but yeah, no, I didn't have sort of like a life plan. I mean, this was hard work and luck and you know, knowing when an opportunity has arrived and not letting it pass, you know, too.
And that's intuition?
I guess so, yeah.
All right, we're gonna go to, I got opportunity to answer 2 questions from here in the in-studio audience. You're in the front row, so you're gonna get second place here. We're gonna go, you in the 4th row there, please. Mike's gonna come your way, you can use that. Tell us, actually stand up, tell us who you are. That'd be, yeah, this is official, right?
Hi, Chase.
Hi, how are you? Yep, I think it's working, but it's not, you're not attached to the PA.
Okay, great. I wanted to ask you about your voice, because I think you have one of the most incredible special voices. And just when you started to sing, what was your first kind of experience with, especially someone who's shy, and a voice is so personal, so. And I grew up in Hawaii, so what up with buzzes?
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Thank you, Sarah Rudenoff. That's been great to hear from you.
I mean, I remember, you know, listening to records in my room and singing along all the time, you know, privately in my room with the door shut and not wanting my parents to hear anything, but sort of wanting them to hear, you know. And singing along to a lot. So a lot of this is in that time when I lived in England. So I had gone to Woolworths and bought Echo and the Bunnymen, Ocean Rain, and The Smiths, The Queen is Dead, and U2 War, and like these were records that were on the pop charts in England at the time, but over here at that time they were pretty obscure, you know. But sitting and singing along to all those songs, I think I learned how to sing a bit. I will say this, and it goes back to Brian, having a producer in the room criticizing you as you're singing really gets you to focus on your voice and helps you have perspective, and it really is a great training tool. So I think I learned a lot about singing and kind of honed the skill a little bit. I mean, you know, it's funny because, you know, as all the pop acts that you hear, you know, I have to say I'm very impressed with a lot of them. I mean, these people they're well trained. I mean, they've gone that route, I guess, but you know, they really are great singers, a lot of these kids, you know. And so I'm like self-taught, and it's, you know, that process, singing in the bedroom with the records, and then maybe having the luxury of Brian Burton crapping on your performance once in a while.
Actually, that's a great, we're going to go to the front row here for that second question, but before we do, So Young Lim wants to know, well, if you grew up so shy, what exactly made you get over your shyness to perform? Because you have, if you've got a barrier between you and performing.
And why do I want to perform? Why would I
what is
shy?
it? Is it masochistic?
Okay.
What's the thing?
Yeah. I think that, and this is maybe a little bit lofty, but I think that humans want to communicate. It's kind of our thing, right? We do this thing. We speak to each other. We try and express things, and we always have. I think that art is sort of an elaboration on that. And so the shyness almost pushes me. It's even more beautiful, the goal of actually communicating to somebody. You know, I mean, it almost makes you want to choke up if you think about it. It makes it all the more beautiful, you know, to actually express yourself and have it received, you know. So I think that maybe is the drive.
Awesome. Sherry wants to know, will someone please get on stage and take a picture and see what James and Chase are seeing right now?
Pretty faces.
So, Casey, can you come up, just take a picture of what we're seeing right now? We're happy to do that, Sherry. We'll post that on social.
That's so cool. We can do that right now.
Yeah, we can do that, right? We'll post on our social channels. And careful, bud. In the meantime, we're going to go to you, fine sir. Please stand up, tell us who you are, and ask your question of Mr. James Mercer.
Hi, my name is Mitch, and my question is about your songwriting. I know the Shins have gone through a few different lineup changes, and I'm curious, do you feel your songwriting, has it all been tailored by the people you're playing with, or are the songs just your songs independently of who they're with?
If you can't hear, like, have your songs been tailored independently, or are they a reflection of who you're playing with right now?
I think it has certainly been altered because,
that's probably enough, dude. Thank you, Casey. Thank you. I'm just kidding, buddy.
I love how he runs his game.
I'm just kidding. I love that guy. I'm playing. But sorry.
I would say that it's indirectly because, you know, the people that are around me, I am turned on to a lot of music. You know, overhearing what they're hearing. So, like, in my early days, Marty and Neil in the first Shins iteration were just huge music nerds and really opinionated, you know, and which was good and bad, you know, but I really got exposed to a lot of cool stuff. And so I think that it's indirectly a big influence, the people that I'm playing with, for sure.
One more question from the in-studio audience. We're going to all the way back to the tall man with the white shirt. I think his name is Tab. There's so many awesome people in this room.
Can you hear me okay?
You talk loudly.
I'll talk loud.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what do you do when shit's gone off course? Like, what's your workflow to course correct when things aren't going well creatively or, you know, in whatever sense?
Well, I mean, I'm working on multiple songs at once. So I can leave a song behind for a little bit, you know, and get on to something that maybe I haven't addressed in a couple months, and I might have fresh ears. That's a good thing, I think. The other thing is just question. I think I've found that sometimes the reason I started writing the song is actually the problem. Like, sometimes the thing that I thought was the anchor is actually, like, the anvil, like I'm holding it down or something, you know. And so question everything, reapproach production. So I'm talking about music, you know, and that's kind of the only thing I'm really versed in. But Those are the two things I try. You know, and sometimes I just bail. I just abandon a song, you know?
There's some research that came out recently. I'm not very good at citing research, so just take my word for it. Research, right? No, but something like that, there's some optimum number of projects. It's like 4 or 5 projects that you have going on at the same time and this is not just for creatives, this is just in life. You've got 4 or 5 things that you're working on, and when you get stuck on one, you move to another, you work on that, you get stuck, and ultimately, life is pretty simple, and all of these things relate to one another in a way that you can't actually understand, but that they take turns getting the other one unstuck. So is 5, like you have 5 songs that you're working on at the same time?
Oh yeah, sure. And I was just realizing maybe a canvas that's laying on the floor that I'm smudging paint around on as well. You know, when I get frustrated or bored with that. So yeah, I like that approach.
Great. Well, to be able to sit here and speak with you in front of a couple hundred folks or 150 folks, however many fit in this small room, has been a treat. And there's just a lot of just the questions that are coming in from all over the world. There's too many of them for us to get to. But I'm painfully aware that the thing that so many people have, why they're here, why they're tuning in all over the world, is to hear you play.
I can play a couple tunes.
Would you guys like that?